What's up, guys? Welcome back to another debate. Today we got Forko versus Forks, two beautiful interlocutors that will be going at it in the dialectical octagon. So let's start the debate, guys. I want a good, clean match. There we go. Let's get it started.
All right,
Okay,
Forks. I just
sweet.
want to clarify my proposition. First of all, premise one, my stomach hurts. Premise two, I think veganism is chill. Yeah, like it's cool. But I think that it's not a moral obligation or a ought because I don't think animals have the value principle that I value.
Okay. I mean, so just as like a refresher, my belief is just that we should try to reduce animal consumption and suffering as much as is feasible, as much as is possible. I think that by all metrics of evidence, these are beings that have capabilities of experience, and we should therefore not be, in a very trivial sense, consuming them when we could otherwise not do that. And in that sense, we have that obligation to prevent that harm. That's just the overall view.
Right. You believe it's just to clarify, it's an ought, right? We ought to limit our animal consumption as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And for further clarity, I don't take it to be true that just because your personal value set or belief system says that you don't care about animals, that therefore disqualifies it from being an ought that we should follow.
Well, then what do you think?
About what?
What do you think defines our oughts?
I think our oughts are defined by a convincing set of arguments that, hey, this thing has value in some way that we should all broadly recognize, and we should try to act in accordance with that value. So then in this case, like I think that presumably we all agree that one of the things that, or at least probably the most important thing that dictates value, I would like to hope, is that we don't want to cause undue suffering onto those who can experience and feel it.
No, I don't agree.
Okay, with what specifically?
I think causing suffering to a non-moral agent is completely fine.
Okay, but obviously I'm saying that it is a moral agent, and I would question, okay, what part of why I value animals do you disagree with or hold some sort of suspense over?
I don't know why you value animals. What's your value principle? Your necessary one.
Yeah, like I told you, I think that when I'm judging whether I value something and whether we should try to not harm it, if it has the capacity of experience and suffering, and if we are causing suffering in a very trivial sense that we could otherwise avoid, we have an obligation to avoid it. So I'm not going to, for example, kill and eat your mother or you or somebody you deeply love just because I really want to do it when I could just otherwise choose not to.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's other ways to reason yourself to the conclusion of not eating my mother, though. Aside from just suffering on what your value principle would be, I guess having
But
a conscious
that would
experience.
be, well, the point is not that that's exclusively the reason. I'm just saying that would be a valid and I would like to think sound reason. So it's going to
Uh,
apply here as well.
yeah,
There are other
sufficient
reasons to not
reason.
eat animals. Like I can make an argument from like environmentalism, like economics, efficiency, but that's not the reason we're here to talk about today.
Right. Yeah, we're talking about normative odds, correct? So I
Yep.
guess a sufficient principle for you would be having a conscious experience, correct?
Yep. And I think both anecdotally, our personal experiences, all the way down to the scientific consensus and the examination of the substrates of consciousness that animals have, all evidence seems to point to the fact that they do.
Right.
I mean, do
So
you disagree?
let's just say there's a button in front of you, right? And the button in front of you can either kill one human or 10 animals. Because the 10 animals have, let's just say they have more conscious experience, they're able to experience as much as these 10 humans. Would you press that button?
Yeah,
Or these one this one human?
all else equal, I am preserving the human. But to be clear, that's the point of saying that A, our consumption of animals is generally speaking very trivial, so it's not going to carry the same weight as that analogy. And that B, I'm not claiming they're equal in value to human beings, just that they have sufficient value in
Yeah,
terms of them
so
having a
what's
conscious
the trait that
experience.
distinguishes the values here? I want to know your moral worldview. Let's flesh it out.
Yeah, I think that you can have more of something valuable, which is to say that I think we have a more advanced conscious experience. We have the capacity to suffer further and greater. We have more potential with our conscious experiences. So obviously, we have more of
So can
something
you
that I
define
value.
suffrage?
Could I define suffrage?
Yeah, sure.
Is that what you said, or did I mishear you?
No, I said yeah, sure.
Okay, usually you mean suffering? Because suffrage, I think of like women's voting rights or voting rights in general. Like suffering, I just think is like when something that has the capacity for experience, like just is negatively impacted or is caused some sort of pain or discomfort, some sort of mental, physical stress. I think there's
Okay,
like I
so
think
let's
we
just
both know
say
what
these
suffering
animals
is.
had like higher pain receptors than ours. Their pain receptors were more advanced, and when we killed these animals, they experienced more pain than us. What about the button then?
Well, I think that there's like a physical sense of suffering that we can measure, like the pain receptors, like you said. But then I think there's also a separate sense of suffering in terms of being self-aware and aware of what's going on. Like that, I think is higher in humans. We have reason to believe that. But either way, just to be clear, either way,
Yeah, how do
if we
you
can
weigh
prevent
out these
animal
two
death,
suffrages and
if we
tell
can
me
prevent
which
animal
one is more
death
valuable
as
than
I
the
define
other?
veganism, then we should do that. Yeah, I would probably prioritize the awareness of the pain that we're going through, or the displeasure we're going through, over the sheer amount of receptors for such
They're
things.
very aware. They're very aware of the pain, right? They're feeling the pain just as we would. They're
It
just
sounds
not
like you
aware of
agree.
what the pain is depriving them of, or what the pain
Are
is,
you the
causing within the long
vegan
run. They
or?
might not be aware that they're dying right there, right, Forks? But they're aware that they're getting
Well,
caused like gratuitous
they're very
pain.
aware that they're suffering. Yeah, of course. Like we have, for example, in 2020, I think it's the Iowa, one of the largest Iowa pig producers were literally shoving them in by the millions into barns and then steaming them, gassing them to death over the course of hours. And they were screaming. They were literally writhing in pain. Like, yeah, we agree. Even
Yeah,
though it
hold
sounds
on,
like you're the
Forks,
vegan.
real quick, just to
I'm
clarify
just
my
saying we have an
position. I
obligation to
don't
prevent that level of
necessarily
harm.
agree with factory farming, right? I have no problem with like just fucking going up to an
No,
animal, shooting it in the
that's
head,
not
and
even
then
the point of
eating
what I
it for
said.
breakfast.
No, that's fine. That's not even the point of what I said. I was just saying that they do have that capacity for suffering very evidently.
Oh
It
yeah,
sounds like
I'm
we
aware it
agree.
wasn't the point. I just wanted to clarify my position. So
Yeah,
again,
that's fine.
you weigh these two out.
So then
Why?
what's the justification? So I'm just curious, what's the justification then for inducing animal death and suffering just because we enjoy eating meat in most instances?
Well, I value the capacity for natural and rational creativity.
Okay, as defined by what?
Which word do you want a definition for?
I just, I guess in the context, like what's a satisfying amount of creativity, for example?
Well, if it's rational, if it can respond. So rational would be defined as like an agent that can reason within the pragmatic field and the moral field and respond to moral phenomena and pragmatic phenomena.
And then what's the threshold for creativity?
Creativity would be the ability to create or recreate within our reality.
That's very vague. Create or recreate what? Anything? Like,
Yeah.
what about creating or recreating relationships?
What do you mean?
Well, that's an aspect of creation, right? So, like when I look at a dog, a cat, a pig, a cow, a horse, any sort of animal that seems to have a
Yeah, it's just not
relationship, a
rational
sense of
creativity. They
community.
can't aptly respond to moral phenomena.
So, real quickly, maybe I missed it. You said that rationality is defined by what, and then presumably moral phenomena has something to do with moral phenomena.
Yeah, the ability to aptly respond to moral phenomena and like pragmatic phenomena, like the ability to do
Okay.
your taxes and the ability to deduce what's right and wrong.
Well, okay. So when we say aptly, like, what's the bare minimum? Just the ability to deduce on some level what's right or wrong, on any level what's right or wrong.
No, obviously it would have to be something that's like coherent and valid. Like I don't value a guy who comes to the conclusion that like rape is an apt response to anything, like aside from extremes, of course. Or I don't value a guy who like goes, instead of doing my taxes, I'm just gonna go murder like
Okay.
16 children.
Okay, so for example, there's a little boy called Noah Wall, who's a British boy who was born with severe conditions such as spinal bifida and hydrocephalus. So this is somebody who was born with about 2% of his brain. The rest of is filled with fluids. He's achieved some level of sentient ability, the ability to talk, the ability to read. This is probably not a person who's ever going to have a solid or firm understanding of why rape is wrong or why murder is wrong or more complex moral ethics. Do you think this is somebody who we should be able to, for example, as does happen in the animal agriculture industry, not that you endorse it, just murder, rape, and kill and eat? Like, is that something we should be able
No,
to do to this
first
point?
of all, that question's rather loaded. I'll pick it apart though. So first of all, I
Go
think
for it.
rape is just intrinsically wrong, right? Because it's not a rational response to anything. So they'd be literally just doing an immoral act via my worldview to rape. Same with,
So you're
like the
anti-raping animals, to be clear,
yeah, I am anti-raping animals, correct?
such as the
Um,
production of milk, for example, where we inseminate them with absolutely no concern for their will.
yeah. I mean, if you want to define that as rape, I guess it would be like a
I would define that as rape.
semantical disagreement, but I'm not arguing for milk right now. Like, if you want to ban milk,
Okay.
cool.
No, that's
I
fine.
don't
I
really
just wanted to
drink
make
milk
that
like that.
clarification. You're anti a lot of dairy production in general.
Yeah, I think it's a non-point. It's a moot point. I could agree to it. I could disagree to it. But
Okay. Well, I'm just glad we agree on that. So go ahead.
yeah, all right. So if this boy gets killed and it inhibits someone else's natural capacity for human creativity, then it's obviously an issue. I have this normative thought experiment that I apply to my moral worldview, And the normative thought experiment goes that if this concept was exposed to people and it would be harmful of the moral principle that I value, then it is a wrong action, obviously, right? So if killing this boy would inhibit people's natural creativity, which is something we see, artists like witness very traumatic events or terrible acts and they go, oh my God, this is terrible. And it
Why could we not
obviously
make
puts
that argument
hindrance
about
on their
animals?
creative process. It obviously puts hindrance on rational thinking, right? People go into like psychosis from seeing traumatic actions like this, especially like rape, torture, or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck you said would happen to this boy.
Mhm.
It would be inhibiting of the creativity principle, which would then be immoral. I think we ought not inhibit rational human creativity either. Or
Why could
rational
we not make
natural
this?
creativity,
Wait,
sorry.
why could we not make this argument about people in reference to animal suffering once they're made aware of it? We could look at the
Because
fact
there's a
that a
bunch
lot
of
of
empirical studies about how people feel about hunting and sports hunting, and it's
what
around
about the
74% of the population agrees to sports hunting and hunting. There's also an inductive argument that we hunted animals. You can make the argument that it was out of necessity at first, but
well, to
we
be
continued to
clear,
do
that's
it
not going to
after we
be that's not
discovered
going to be in
farming. Yo,
violation.
son,
That's
can
not
I
going to be in
finish speaking,
violation
please?
with.
Forks.
Well, hold on.
I'm letting
You
you
to be
speak.
okay. In fairness, you did. I wasn't quite finished with my question. You did cut off to respond, which is fine. But then there's something you brought up as well.
Oh, I'm
I'll let
sorry.
you
You had
finish
more
speaking,
questions?
but
Go ahead.
well, no. I think that you probably got the idea. I'm just saying that you did sort of interrupt in the middle, but it's fine. You can continue. You can finish.
Yeah, okay. So it's just if it inhibits, I'll just make it like layman and small so you can
Hmm.
speak. If it inhibits natural human creativity or natural rational creativity, pardon me, then it's a bad action. And cows and hunting and all that just doesn't inhibit that. We've done it for years. We did it out of necessity, but then when we were able to make corn for brunch and eat, fucking leeks and all that shit, we continued to do it. So it's inductively the case. It doesn't really inhibit humanity to go shoot an animal. It's also the case very clearly that people don't care, like just based off,
Uh,
surveys, etc.
Well, I'd like to remind you that the premise of my position was that we should inhibit all animal suffering and killing as much as is just we are capable of, or as much as is possible. So if you're going to make the argument that people agree with sport hunting or with hunting in general, which is typically only approved of because we're doing it in service of the ecosystem, that's not going to be trivial inducement of suffering onto animals, as I've been critical of, and is my original position from the beginning of the debate, then obviously that's not really going to be in violation of my
You think we
position.
don't hunt for
Uh,
food?
we do hunt for food, but then I would say that that's a very trivial and meaningless sense of suffering that we're inducing on animals. And I would just question this. It's like we can look at the animal agriculture industry. We could look at vegans who display mental distress, symptoms of depression, suicidality, either from working in terms of
Yeah,
killing
I think you're
animals.
not
Like
understanding
these
my
are these
normative
are
principle
things. Hold
there,
on, these are things.
Forks.
Hold on, these are things that, by the definition of what you outlined, would limit creativity and human rationale.
Yeah, so here's what I'm talking about though. I don't really give a fuck if the person's not rational, right? It has to inhibit my value
Rationally
principle.
creative. I'm aware.
Yeah, okay, so these guys aren't aptly responding to moral claims if they think that fucking animals have some sort of right or whatever morally. So
Wait,
they're
why are
just
they
not
not why
rational
are
in
they
my
not aptly
worldview.
responding? Hold on. How is their rational creativity not being hindered when we look at people who are in the service of consistently killing these animals and they have symptoms, heightened symptoms compared to the rest of society of suicidality and depression? How are vegans who are put in a state of mental distress and cognitive distress by the massive holocaust of billions of animals being raped and murdered? How is that not by definition a limitation of rational creativity as you would consider for human beings? Why we
Yeah, I
can't
just don't
kill
think they're
this
aptly
this this
responding to the
person?
moral phenomena there.
I know you don't think so. That's why I'm asking more specific questions.
Yeah,
Could you
I'd
engage
argue
with
that
them?
my norm. So the reason I think this is the case is that my normative scope would have more explanatory power and explanatory scope. It would answer more questions than a lot of these other normative scopes. And again, I'm very interested in getting back into looking at yours, right? And we could see if yours answers more questions than mine.
I
But
just don't think you're engaging, so that's disappointing. But
engaging in what?
in the specific question I asked you, like when you say it has more explanatory power, like again, it seems like we're hedging a little bit because it seemed like you were offering no specific threshold or through line as to how much rational creativity being induced by us killing this boy with 2% of his brain. All you said was that in general, that it would induce rational creativity were people to discover what was going on, that would be enough to go against it. Yet here I am telling you that people are getting this by viewing documentaries such as Dominion, by working in the animal agriculture industry. Why does that not suffice but your argument against us killing this 2-year-old, which by the way, that's a purely theoretical argument. We do have like actual tangible evidence for this. Why is this not enough?
Yeah, because the tangible evidence doesn't prove that these beings are rational or aptly responding to moral phenomena. I'm not hedging. I'm telling you that when my scope has more
That's not the
explanatory
claim.
power, it's the scope we ought to follow, right? I have motivators for why my principle should be a value principle. And these people who are responding to this moral phenomena of animals dying are responding to it incorrectly, just meaning they're not rational beings. It's not
Based
me
on what?
hedging.
Wait, based on what?
They're following a wrong normative framework. It has less explanatory
Because it's
scope.
not your normative framework?
Yeah, I think my normative framework is the correct normative framework. Correct. Yes.
Correct by what definition? By what means?
So I would use a motivator as to follow normative frameworks as how much they can explain and how many actions they can, elaborate on and provide moral, worth. And like, for example, there's normative
So wait,
frameworks
what's
like
your evidence they couldn't do
utilitarianism.
that?
Hold on one second.
What?
There's
Okay.
normative frameworks like utilitarianism, right? That run into these like absurd conclusions of like, you ought to donate your fucking organs if you have organs, if it, maximizes like pleasure, shit like that. My normative framework doesn't run into any of these problems. And I just think theirs do, right? I'm willing
Wait,
to
what's your
explore
evidence for
yours,
that?
the
Wait, to be clear,
context.
that's a statistical claim. Now you're saying that you do think you can quantify that most, or at least a significant enough portion of these people would fall into these issues. Okay, what's your evidence for that? Do you know
Well,
that?
yeah, I just don't think that's like propositionally anywhere near what we should be talking about right now. We're talking about your
It's the
normative
claim that you
framework versus
made,
my
and it's the
normative
claim that you're
framework, right?
making. Hold on, that's the claim you're making in response to my entire point. Your point kind of hinges on whether or not that statistical claim you just made is actually true. Because I'll remind you, and this was a bit of a tracking issue earlier, I'm not arguing that these animals are creatively rational. I, to remind you, said that there was
Creatively
a
rational.
2-year-old boy. There was a yeah, that's fine. Rationally creative. There's a 2-year-old boy, not 2-year-old boy. There was a boy, young boy, with 2% of his brain that we seem to agree does not have the capacity to fit this rational creativity that you care about, but your justification for why we should not be able to kill and eat him is because it would limit the the rational creativity of other people. Now we're on the argument about why couldn't we just argue that similarly for animals, and you're saying that, well, actually, you don't care about the people who are rationally, creatively, whatever, impacted because you don't think that they're philosophically literate, they don't have the correct positions on things. That's a statistical claim. You need to prove that.
I just don't
That's the
think they're
relevance
apt
of
to.
this.
I don't think they're aptly responding to moral phenomena, and the reason is because if I
Based on
talked with
what?
these, yeah, I'm trying to tell you. So if the reason is that if I talked with these people, my worldview would hold true and theirs wouldn't, right? Outside of
How do you
that,
know that? Wait, what's
if
the
you don't
evidence
want to
for
get
that?
it, the evidence for that is that I've talked to people with normative frameworks. I could reason a bunch of
What's your
normative
sample
frameworks right
size?
now and explain to you why they
There
don't
are millions
hold
of
this to
vegans
be the
around the
case.
world. What's your sample size to say that comparatively speaking, these people are creatively irrational?
There's 2%
You
of vegans, right? In the world, there's 2% vegan people.
Okay, and your sample size is less than a fraction of a percent of vegan people. So again, how does your sample size justify the statistical claim you made that these people are not philosophically literate enough or engaging with morality correctly?
Because they're reaching a false conclusion.
Of the people that you've talked to, which again, you have no idea represents the vast majority of vegans at all. So again, this is just you basically generalizing. It's a hasty
Yeah, so
generalization.
if there's some vegan who actually has like a valid moral framework, then I'd be like, okay, well then maybe I'll follow that moral framework, right? I'm not
Okay,
sitting
but
here and saying
so then you're
my
dropping the claim
position
then.
is.
You made a claim you couldn't justify because you hadn't talked to enough people. You just assumed that they didn't generally know, but you don't really know that. So your response to my entire argument
Yeah,
is based on something you
it's
just
just an
assumed.
inductive argument. The vegans I've spoke to don't know,
It's not
so
even
therefore they
it's
don't
not
know.
even
But again, it's a
inductive.
moot point that
It's
doesn't.
like it's
Hold
a
on,
horribly
Forks. It's a
constructed
moot point
abductive
that
argument. It's not even inductive.
come close to hitting the fucking ball on what my normative fucking hypothetical was, where I say if it affects majority of the fucking population, I don't give a fuck. Like I told you, I don't give a fuck about these random rapists. I don't care about Neanderthals. I don't care about retards, right? I don't care
So
about these people who aren't walking among us in normal ways, in normal fashions, deciding, hey, this is wrong, right? I care about what the majority of society says in regards to if it
okay,
inhibits
then
the
here's an
rational
interesting
human
question because I don't think
creativity.
you're
There
going to
are
be able to
obviously
justify
going to
this
be
one as well.
outliers within certain conditions,
Now, look,
Forks. There are going to be outliers everywhere.
now that you've shown that you're prone to just assuming generalizations about human beings without actually having the evidence for it, I'm going to press you more firmly now. What's your evidence that the vast majority of people, A, would hear about the case of killing the young child with 2% of his brain, and A, think that's immoral, and then B, what's your evidence that the majority of people would be awoken to things such as dominion, such as the sheer extent of which with which animals can suffer, and would not decide that veganism
Are
is the
you asking
morally
for like an
correct route?
empirical study on
What's
how
the
people
evidence for that?
react to murder?
Wait,
Are
you
you
made an
retarded?
empirical claim, didn't you? Did you make an empirical claim?
Yes, but are you
And to be
asking
clear,
for an
to be clear,
empirical study on
and to
how
be
people
clear,
react
it's
to
not
murder? I don't
just.
think
And to
that's
be
a hard
clear, to be
burden you're
clear,
putting on
it's
me.
not just. To be clear, it's not just how they react to murder. It's were they given access to the information about the extent of animal suffering, the extent of animal capacity to experience, and the extent of which they are suffering at the billions being raped, killed, murdered. If they were given access to that information, what's your proof the majority would not be vegan?
I don't care if people would be vegan if the only way to eat animals was fucking factory farming. I'd probably be vegan if that was the only way to eat animals. You know what I do, Forks? I go out
Or
in the
even
wild,
outside
I
of factory
fucking shoot a
farming.
deer,
Then
and
answer
I
even
eat
outside of
venison for
factory
dinner.
farming.
I've
Then eat
joined the
it.
fucking
Then
call.
answer even
I've
outside of
joined the
factory
call
farming.
while I'm on the hunt with Cool Guy.
I'll
I've
literally
joined the
grant you that
call.
steel, man. I'll
What'd you
literally
say?
grant you that. Oh, I didn't realize now you represent the majority of people. Why are you talking about yourself and your experiences when you apparently only care about what the majority thinks? You don't. You're not even consistent in your own
I'm saying
standard.
that,
So go
look,
ahead.
all my
Even
claim
outside of
is that the
factory
majority
farming,
would
please
respond
prove to me the
positively to
majority would
hunting.
respond.
All I'm
Please.
saying is the
Okay, go on.
majority would
Go on.
respond positively to hunting because we continued to hunt when it wasn't a necessity. What is the argument? What is the argument, Forks, for you to go, I think that people just don't fucking
So
care
you're burden
about
shifting now. So you're burden shifting now
what's my
because you made
burden?
the affirmation. You
What's
made
my
the
burden? What's my
affirmation. You
burden?
made the affirmation that the majority of people would not care seriously about vegan ethics were they to be exposed to the extent with which animals can suffer, the extent with which animals can experience, and the extent with which we're killing them trivially. You said that that wouldn't be the case, affirmatively so, but now you're trying to shift the burden onto me and say, well, you need to prove
All
that they
my
would
claim,
care.
I
It's like, no,
don't agree with
you're not going
factory
to run
farming.
from these burdens.
My moral framework
I
does
told you to
not
answer
agree
outside
with.
of factory farming, so stop clinging to it like a crutch and just answer.
Yeah,
Even outside of factory farming, what's your evidence?
yeah. So, do you want the empirical studies on how people feel about hunting? Because I have those. I can give you those.
I think you
People
know
don't give
that's
a
not the
fuck about
question I'm
hunting.
asking you,
I
and I
also
think the
gave
fact
you
that
an
you keep trying
inductive
to straw
argument,
man it
Forks.
as that,
I
it's
think
just
we've
more proof your
exhausted
argument
this.
is weak. I think it's
I
very
think we've
substantively weak
exhausted
if you
this. I
have to keep
gave you an
straw manning like
inductive
this.
argument. I told you I could give you empirical studies. You're just
Yeah,
dancing
we can
around
give
shit like a
inductive
little
arguments as
fairy. You're
well
like the
that
tooth fairy, but you're
there
fat.
was a
Not,
rapid
that shit's
rise in
terrible,
veganism as a
boy.
phenomena across the world. The rapid rise in veganism across the world as a phenomena, despite the fact, as you pointed out, that we very trivially hunted for years and years and years, should indicate that actually maybe more people are sympathetic to these ethics than you realize. So go ahead and provide evidence on your side, as you claim,
I
that
just think
most
it could.
people, given
I think it
accurate
could
information
also
about
be
the
the case,
psychological
Forks.
states of animals,
I think it
would
could
not
also be
support
the
vegan
case that
ethics.
veganism is rising because people don't want to fucking go out and hunt their food. Not because it's a moral
People haven't
disdain.
hunted
They
their
don't want
food
to
since
go out and
how
hunt their
long?
food
Since like
because it's a moral disdain. But I think
people in
it's
the
just
1900s were not hunting their food like that, dog. They were buying from grocery stores. This has not been a thing for like over 100 years at least.
right,
Okay,
and they
this is
didn't
not
know
a
how
new
fucking
phenomena
food
where
was
we don't
made,
hunt for
bro.
most of our food.
These documentaries that you're using to back up your fucking argument came out when in the 1900s, you stupid bitch.
Okay, but the point is, if you want to appeal to
Okay, what?
explanatory power
Okay, but
like
the
you
point
set
is
as a
what?
standard, it is not going to be explanatorily satisfying that there are more vegans because we don't want to hunt our food anymore. We haven't hunted for our own food for the most part in like 200 years, at least. Like, what are we talking about?
That's fine. That's fine. But the people who do react
So
to
then you concede
hunting,
it has no explanatory power.
no, I don't. I'm saying it's fine that people don't hunt
Okay.
anymore, dude. But the people who do hunt and the people who get asked about hunting, they go, I don't really give a fuck about hunting. We hunted when it wasn't a necessity. You act like farming was invented within the
So
1900s. That's so
is that the
retarded.
majority of people? Because earlier I swear you were swearing up and down that the majority of people is the only reference with which you care about morality,
Yes, 70.
generally
So
speaking. And then you
within a
started talking
survey of a
about
thousand
hunters and
people,
what they think,
within a
which is not
survey
going
of
to
a
represent the
thousand
majority of the
people,
population.
right, which we can make the inductive argument for, 74% of those people said, "Yeah, I don't really care about hunting."
That's not the survey question that was being asked, though. At least not what I was asking you of. I think
What are you asking
I
me?
think the recording will show that. Yeah, the recording will show, as I said, that if people, because I don't think they're generally this informed on it,
You
were
talk
made
faster than you
aware.
come, dude. Slow down, take a breath.
I don't think I talked that fast, but regardless, you've been able to keep up. I don't think this is an issue. Are you good? Are you getting
You just
frustrated?
stuttered. You stuttered like 5 times, bro. Are you retarded?
Yeah,
Did your
I'm
brain
aware.
fart?
Are we five? Are we talking like adults? Are we seriously going to act like this?
We're talking
So
like adults,
anyway,
but you're
what
not
I was
capable of
asking you,
talking like an adult because you're stuttering over all your words and you're
I'm just
speaking
asking you
faster
to
than you
talk like
come.
somebody. I'm just asking you to be mature about that. I don't know why you're acting like a freak about this. Look, I
Can you
asked
prove?
you,
Wait,
were
why is that
people to
conducive
be.
to me acting like a freak? You made the claim. Go ahead.
So anyway, so what I asked you was,
So nice
were
duck.
people to be made
Nice duck.
aware?
Bird and duck. Good job. Continue.
Do you
Go
think
ahead
you
with
look
your
good right
question.
now? Do you think you look good right now? Like, genuinely asking.
I think I look better than you.
Okay. So as I was saying, my question to you was, were people to be made aware, like as clear as we are, about the psychological states of animals, the capacity with which they can suffer and do suffer, and the extent to which they were hunted, trivially so, without purpose, I'm not so sure. And the veganism argument, the veganism numbers, the rise in vegans, inductively, as you said, you value induction, would seem to suggest that when people are made aware of these things, they actually do tend to side more alongside vegan ethics. Now, if you're going to say that's not true, as you have claimed, I would just be curious what the evidence is for that.
Yeah, I could repeat what I said, but I did. I literally exactly responded to this question. I think it could
With what?
also just be the case, Forks, and I don't think you could quantify which one is more likely than the other. It could also be the case that they do not agree with the way that food is currently obtained, right? Most of these people don't want to go out and hunt. They want to fucking go to the grocery store and buy meat. And with the documentaries that you've used as evidence, they go, I don't want to support this industry. That's just fucking the fuck out of these animals. That's really bad, and I don't want to
So then
support
why
it.
are they vegan instead of why are they vegan then? Here's the explanatory power thing. If that were explanatorily true, then why don't they just go to family-friendly, grassroots, grass-fed farms where this sort of agricultural abuse just does not occur, at least not nearly at the proportions they do at the big mainstream industries? Why wouldn't they just do that?
Can you show me that family-friendly, grass-fed farms that don't torture animals are available to the vast majority of the population? That's a huge fucking burden. GG, boy. What the fuck?
You know that you know that these people are literally like their products are sold at major retailers. So we're talking Walmart, we're talking Giant. You know that these companies are brought out by larger retailers that make these products available, right? This is not an exclusive thing. I don't know where you get this idea this is exclusive from.
Yeah, so go ahead and show me the fact that there are multiple companies sold at these retailers
So
that
let's see.
don't torture animals. Go ahead.
Cruelty-free, we'll just say cruelty-free meat or eggs. We'll go with either. And then we'll just look up Walmart. Cruelty-free eggs.
I'm about to eat the Chick-fil-A.
Okay, so we can look at, for example, the Vital Farms, which take pride
This
in the
is
fact
just a
that all of
misdefinition of
hold
cruelty-free.
on.
We agreed on dairy products and shit like that being immoral
No,
due
hold
to the
on.
rape
Hold
occurring.
on. That's
Would
not what's in
eggs
question
not
right
be
now.
rape?
That's not
Would
what's in
eggs
question
not
right
be
now.
rape?
That's
Would
not what's in
eggs not
question right
be
now.
rape?
To be clear, I think all animal death is cruel. What I'm not appealing to is whether or not it goes by my definition of cruelty, just whether or not it goes by what the average person would likely consider the definition of cruelty to see if you're explanatorily true in the sense that people only
Okay, so
disagree
it's
with
it's
large
equally the
animal
case that these
agricultural
guys just don't
cruelty.
want to support
Okay,
farms that rape animals.
you understand that when you make the argument that this is not readily accessible, we have examples such as, again, Vital Farms eggs, which is sold freely at large retail stores like Walmart, like Giant, for example. These are in the thousands
This is a misdefinition of
across the
what cruelty
nation.
is. You're retarded.
Millions literally shop at these areas. Again, the cruelty is not by my definition; it's by the definition of the average consumer, which is what we're appealing to. We're trying to
You
determine the
think the
average
average
consumer
consumer?
who
You think the
learns
average
about.
consumer would agree with rape?
I'm saying that the average person who gets into vegan ethics, if they only thought that it was the cruelty of large animal agriculture, they would just go to these readily accessible,
And
cruelty-free
I'm saying that
areas.
these farms are raping people. It's you cannot
And
make
I'm
the
saying that
claim.
they don't generally consider, again, if you're somebody who would
Prove
just
that
go
they
to a,
don't
hold on,
generally
if you're
consider it
going
being
to
rape.
somebody,
Prove that. Nice argument.
stop it,
Prove that.
stop it, stop it, stop it. You know that's not the argument. The argument is if you're the type of person who would not go vegan, but would rather just go and eat the dead bodies, the dead carcasses of animals at friendly, free roam farms, you're probably not the type of person to consider artificial insemination rape. You didn't even consider it rape. You thought that it was a misuse of semantics. So I'm not sure why you think this is so
So they
unbelievable.
eat the carcasses of these animals.
That's what meat is. Yes, it's part of the carcass of the animal.
You
It's
said
part of
that
the
they
animal's dead
died,
body.
right? Do they
Yes, it's
just
part
die?
of the
How do
animal's
they
dead
die?
body.
How do they die?
Well, they generally get air gun to the head. Like that's an example of how. But like the point is, again, if your explanation were actually held explanatory power that these people were less going towards like veganism because they thought that animal death and suffering as a category was wrong, but they only cared about it at the mainstream animal agriculture industry. If that were true, then Why wouldn't
It
they
could
just go
just
to
be,
these
it could, like
readily
I'm telling you,
available,
I'm just
free
giving you
roaming
an
farms? Why
argument.
wouldn't they?
I'm
I
giving
think
you
you
an
need to
argument
account
of
for that. I
possibility
think you
because
need
you
to account
cannot
for that.
quantify the probability
I think
that
you
they
need
don't
to
like the
account for
rape of
that.
these animals, which I
I
already
think
told
it's
you is
very
fine. That
probable, and
doesn't
I
go
think I've
against
made
my
it clear why it's
worldview at
very
all.
intuitive. I think I've made it clear why it's not only very intuitive, but also why it's probable. These are
You
readily
okay?
accessible
Then
things, and we would
quantify it
expect.
being
Would
intuitive,
we not
quantify it being
predict? Would we
probable.
not
Go
make the
ahead.
prediction? Would we not make the prediction that people would just go to these readily accessible places if they only had an issue with animal agriculture in the large industry form? Why would we not predict that?
The problem is there's too many possibilities here, and you can't quantify what's going on. It's
Okay,
why
what
would they not
possibilities? I've
predict
already
that? Is
demonstrated
nothing
they're
but an
readily. I've
argument
already
from
demonstrated they're
ignorance.
readily accessible. What possibilities are you talking about?
The possibilities are that they don't want to contribute to what you already defined as the rape of these animals, that they don't want to contribute to maybe these animals being enslaved, kept somewhere. They don't want to contribute to other things. It
So
doesn't
they'd be in
necessarily
favor of
have
the
to be
rape
with
of
the
the
fact that
animals,
these
but they
animals are
wouldn't be
getting killed.
anti-death.
That's a
Why would they
crazy
be anti?
argument. You can't prove that at all.
Why would they be anti-rape but not anti-death?
What type of fucking argument is that? They would. There's multiple people who are anti-rape and not anti-death. There's people who sign off on the death penalty and don't go
What?
around raping people for breakfast. You dumb bitch. They don't agree on
Oh
the
my
rape
God.
penalty.
So when
They
I
don't
say
agree with
that,
the
why would you
murderer
be
getting
anti?
raped
We're
after
not
he gets the
talking about
fucking
the people. Hold on. The
sentence.
difference
What the
is
hell?
very clearly that there are people that very obviously think that they're individuals who deserve to be killed, okay? Because there's a certain rationale. You could put a certain rationale to killing people. You can kill them so that they can no longer harm others in the future. There's not exactly a rationale to fucking raping people. So the issue is, though, we're not
Yes,
talking
so
about
that's
those who
exactly
deserve
the
to be.
reason that they'd be fucking
This is a
anti-fucking
different
murder.
circumstance.
And
This is what the issue is of
what?
not listening with your ears. The difference is that they're not generally arguing. I don't think you're generally arguing that even meat eaters say animals deserve to die. I don't think even generally they would say that. That's why people are generally out of favor of people who abuse and kill animals or even kill their pets. Even if it was like a painless quote unquote killing, they have a double standard where if I told you, hey, I painlessly shot my dog in the head for no reason, most people would look at me with disgust. It's not a matter of suffering, it's a matter of death.
Right, because I agree.
So why would they be
100%.
pro animal death but not pro animal rape when they don't believe the animal deserves either?
Because a lot of people just view rape to be intrinsically wrong. But wait, this just presupposes that
Do they
people
not view
don't
death to be
view.
intrinsically wrong as proven by the cognitive dissonance of them being anti-killing our pets, even painlessly?
There's another reason that people don't kill pets. Do you know what domestication was?
Yes, I'm aware what domestication is.
So are you aware
That
that
doesn't
what
relevantly
symbiote? Go
change. To
ahead,
be
hold
clear,
on.
that doesn't relevantly change the moral value of an animal, and it points to a
It
cognitive
does. It
dissonance that
does. It does.
you're
It
okay.
does.
Okay, we've domesticated dogs. People in other cultures still eat dogs, still eat cats, still eat relatively domesticated animals. These are domesticated animals they're killing and eating. They think it's fine. We look at that with disgust. It's a cognitive dissonance. To them, dogs and cats are to us what pigs and cows are. The only difference is that we don't recognize our own moral inconsistency.
The only difference is that there's obviously some sort of aesthetic intuition, or it's because of the symbiotic relationship formulated through domestication, where
So
these
do you
animals
think
have
we can
became
justify
friends
killing
to
and
us.
eating animals because they're aesthetically pleasing?
No, it could be the aesthetic of fucking
No?
murdering something you love, you
Okay,
dumbass
but then
bitch.
that's a part of cognitive. We are both of the opinion that either A, there's a cognitive dissonance or a poor ethical reasoning if the only difference is aesthetically pleasing or aesthetic values.
I provided
There is
another difference.
truly tell me
I
why is it
provided
wrong?
another difference.
Okay, refresh it one more time because I didn't think it was very rational. Whatever. Okay, go ahead.
You didn't think it was very rational?
I didn't think the aesthetic difference one was very rational. What was the other one? Maybe I didn't hear it or misheard it.
Sure, it would be the fact that we have a symbiotic relationship with these things.
Okay, do you understand that we also can have a symbiotic relationship with cows, pigs, horses. Well, not that we eat horses very regularly, chickens. You know
Okay,
these are
then
things
kill
we
a
can.
deer.
You know that these are things that we
Then
can
kill
and
a
not only.
deer.
But people do have
Then kill a
symbiotic
deer.
relationships. People do have
Then
pet
kill a
pigs,
deer.
pet cows.
Then
So
kill a deer. Then
they
kill a
kill a
deer.
deer. People even have symbiotic relationships with people have symbiotic relationships with all sorts of farm animals. I'm not sure what point you're trying to get at. Very clearly,
What type of mutual relationship can a deer serve a human?
have a
Can you show me that
whether or
being
not some people
nomologically
have
the
a
case at all?
symbiotic relationship with a cow or a dog or a cat or a duck, it's not going to justify ending the life of something with a conscious experience. Something that can suffer like you or I. Something that wants to live.
I've
blatantly.
already provided a justifier, right? If you want my
It was a poor justifier.
motivations for that justifier, we can go over that.
It was a
But
poor justifier. You can't just say I offered a justification, therefore it goes through. Like it was a poor
you
justification.
can't just say it was a poor justifier because I'm retarded and don't understand it either.
No,
Dumbass
it was a
bitch.
poor
Like, what the
justifier
fuck?
because I told you that there are people who aesthetically value certain animals. We don't have symbiotic relationships with animals that we don't. At the end of the day, the only commonality
You're literally slurring
beyond
over your words
all
because you're talking so
of the
fast.
coping, beyond all of the coping, beyond all of the cognitive dissonance, beyond all of the inconsistent moral frameworks is these things want to live, have the capacity for experience, have the capacity for suffering. We should protect them.
Yeah, so if you want to get into your moral framework, that's fine. I just want you to point out one inconsistency within mine real quick.
I'm not okay. We're not even talking specifically about your moral framework. You're trying to offer up what I would hope are devil's advocate positions as to why these people might think it's justified for them to eat dogs or cats, whereas we don't. And I'm telling you, aesthetically or symbiotically, that's not going to actually be a good justification. I'm not even criticizing
there's
your
also
moral
there's the
framework right now.
justification that they're irrational. We should value these symbiotic relationships because they promote creativity. They don't because they're being irrational and not responding correctly to the moral phenomena. You dumbass bitch.
So if you acknowledge then that people can and do have symbiotic relationships with farm animals, and if you're going to concede that symbiotic relationships with animals can improve rational creativity, then are we again not depriving society of rational creativity by killing these animals we could otherwise form relationships with? By your own logic.
I don't care about some future deprivation. I care about the current capacity. I've already defined my moral
They
framework.
have the current capacity. They have the current capacity. They don't. Maybe it's
right,
not
but this doesn't influence the current capacity for creativity. Yeah, I don't think we should kill some 4-year-old pet cow, dumbass bitch. Of course I don't. But I don't care about going out, finding a wild bull, shooting it, and then eating it.
So I'm confused then. So wait, you value creative rationality or rational creativity, but you don't value making more rational creativity. And you would even acknowledge that the reduction of rational creativity is a bad thing, yet you don't think that we should try to form relationships with animals
Yes,
as opposed
and
to
anything that
trivially kill
inhibits
them.
the means
You would
to
rather,
use, which is what I define capacity as.
you would rather kill two birds with one stone, depriving the world and society of rational creativity while also literally killing those who can experience and want to live for trivial reason. That's your worldview. That's what you want to defend.
No, it's not. It's not trivial reason. It's the fact that they're just not moral agents. You can strawman me all you want, but it just sounds retarded.
No, the trivial reason is that we don't
no,
need
I don't
to,
care
in many
about
cases, kill them.
future
We often
rational
kill them because
creativity.
they
I care
taste
about the
good.
capacity.
That's a trivial reason.
I don't believe
That's a trivial reason to take a life. Yeah, because it tastes good.
That's not the reason. It's because they're not fucking moral agents.
I didn't say that's the reason we kill them. I'm saying that, sorry, I'm not saying that's the reason people think we morally should be able to kill them. I'm saying that's the reason why we often do kill them. That's the motivation. That's the primary reason. If meat didn't taste good, bro, most people, I'm not going to say most people.
I sat there and agreed. I don't like the fact that people go factory farming and just fucking violate these animals.
I didn't even talk about factory farming.
You did. You brought up the Dominion documentary.
Those words weren't leaving my lips with what I just told you. I'm not.
What'd you say?
Okay. I said those words did not leave my mouth with what I just told you.
Yes, but it was part of your argument previously. Do you just want to drop the point about fucking factory
previously
farming?
I've even told you that for the sake of steel manning you, we can talk about it with little to no regard for factory farming. You just keep trying to go back to it because I don't even know why. It's not even a position I'm married to.
I don't.
You already agree we should be anti-factory farming.
You'll never get married. You're fucking ugly. Second off, bro, it doesn't matter. You're attacking some random motherfucker's moral framework.
You're losing the debate? Are you this upset you're losing the debate? Take a deep breath. It's fine.
I don't think I'm losing at all. You're literally attacking other people's moral frameworks. You're going, they kill things because it tastes good. That's so bad. Yeah, dude, that is retarded. They have no fucking rational reason as to why
you're
they're
not acting like somebody winning the conversation right now. This is not the attitude of a winner.
So anyways, if they just kill someone or kill something, right, for no other reason than it tastes good, obviously that's retarded. Obviously that permisses killing humans. Obviously this person is just a dumb bitch. I don't give a fuck about this dumb bitch person.
I even said that's not the reason why they morally try to justify it. I said that when we're talking about why somebody eats meat, one of the biggest reasons is because they think it tastes good. I'm saying as a reason for ending a life that we both acknowledge can experience, can suffer, does want to live, that is a trivial reason when we could very easily otherwise not do that. And furthermore, we could not only just not otherwise do that, We could form relationships, as you agree, we have the capacity to do, which directly increases the thing you value, which is rational creativity. You're
No, I
literally
don't
working
value
against your own
rational
framework.
creativity. I value the capacity for it, and it doesn't increase the capacity for it. Do you know what capacity means? It's just the
Yeah, the
means to
capacity,
use, you dumbass bitch.
potential, capability of. But again, why do you think there's no capacity? Because we literally see that people who form relationships and pet relationships with farm animals are happier for doing so. So clearly there is a
Do you know what
capacity.
capacity means? The means to use. So you would have to
The
prove
means
that
to,
this
the
fucking
potential
just.
to, the ability to. So we see people with the ability to
I've
form pet
defined what it means
relationships
when
with
I'm
pigs,
using it like 3
cows.
times, and you're just rambling on.
So what was wrong about what I said it was compared to what you said it was? Did we not just say the same thing?
I don't give a fuck if there's anything wrong with what you said it was.
So I
I'm
could have
telling you
said
that
it
how I'm
directly what
using
you
it
said it
because it's my
was.
moral framework, you dumbass
So
bitch.
I could say it in the exact way that you say it, but you're mad as fuck about it for why?
You don't say it in the exact way I say it. But you
So
said
what was
the
the difference?
potential for use? What the
So
fuck
what
is
was the
that?
difference? I said the
I care
means to,
about
the
the means
potential
to
for.
use it
Yeah,
currently.
the first thing I said was the means to, or the means to create that thing. The potential to. I'm using it
Yeah,
synonymously with
so the
that.
first
But
thing
the
you
point
said can
is
be
that when I said
fine.
the
You
means
used a
to,
whole
it
bunch
was
of
the
other
same thing
words
you
after
said.
it, which were retarded.
Okay, well,
Congratulations, we've
very
reached the
clearly, I
same
think that the
conclusion.
means
It
of
just took you
potential to
5
do the
minutes to
same
catch
thing.
up.
Very clearly, I'm using means of potential to synonymously. But if I say the means to do a thing and you say the means
It's
to do a
not
thing,
very clear. You speak like a
we're on the
retard.
same page. So I don't know why you're bitching about it this hard. Can we continue with the debate?
Okay, so then how does this increase some function of the cerebral cortex? How does it increase the cerebral cortex? Because that's what the capacity would be. The means to creativity would be your cerebral cortex. How does this enhance the fucking
You
cerebral
don't think the
cortex?
environment has an impact on your cerebral cortex? You don't think your cerebral cortex interacts with things in the environment, like the relationships you form in the environment? You don't think those things are at all connected?
I don't think fucking having a cow friend, right, or making a bunch of cow friends, yes, increases your
Also,
fucking cerebral
by the
cortex
way, can
function.
you justify, because as far as I'm aware, modern science just denies this. Can you justify that the cortex is all or even primarily what makes up for our conscious experience, our rational creativity? Like, but why are you saying that?
What do you take?
We've literally seen these sorts of activities in subcortex portions of the brain.
Okay, then prove that having a fucking animal friend increases your human conscious experience capacity.
Well, I'm just saying that not only are you incorrect about the hardware that necessarily goes into a conscious experience and rational creativity, but like I said,
What are you defining as hardware here? Do you think we're robots? Do you think we're
just parts of the
CPUs?
brain, just parts of the brain. But if you concede that the parts of the brain are directly interactive with our society, our community, our relationships that we form, which I would hope you would concede, then yeah, of course, there's going to be a one direct causation relationship there.
But how is
My
it
cortex
increasing the
interacts with what?
capacity for it? I don't care if it changes the function of it. How is it increasing the capacity for it?
Because the brain acts on the environment, true or false. The brain responds to things in the environment. If there is a lack of something in the environment the brain can act on, there's going to be less potential or means by which the brain can act on it. It's very clear. If I have loneliness, if I am alone, if I don't have friends or families or loved ones, nobody to share relationships with, that directly impacts your brain, your ability to form relationships, think critically, form empathy, form morality. One of the things that you valued was the ability to form good moral opinions. Where do you think a part of that is from? It's not just all in your brain.
And deduction skills?
Okay, true or false? You have a better chance of deducing correct morality if you're surrounded by a good moral community and people. True or false?
It could be true. That's fine. True.
Okay, so then that directly, by any sense of the word, and even the sense of the word we're both using it, that increases the capacity by which you can be creatively rational, a moral person, etc.
The means to use does not increase. You just get, what the fuck is wrong with you? You just use it correctly,
The
but the
brain
means to
literally
using it stays the
improves.
same.
The brain
What
literally
changes
improves. The brain
fundamentally
literally
about the
improves.
means there? How does the
The brain
means change at
literally
all?
improves. You know that there are differences between the brain of somebody who's depressed, alone, isolated, psychopathic, without the
A
ability to
function
empathize.
can improve,
Those
but
are
the means is
the
not
brain, the
improving.
actual chemistry,
The means is not
the actual
improving. It's a
signaling, the
function
actual
of the
shape of the
means
brain is
that is
literally different.
improving, and
It
improving
literally
is so
has a
subjective.
physiological outcome. It literally has both a sociological and physiological outcome.
Yes, but this does not mean the means is improving. Are you retarded?
You don't think that a physiological improvement to the brain because of socially improved things, you don't think that that's a better means?
No, I don't think that this
No?
random
Okay.
fucking physiological improvement is
Random
necessitating the
fucking
means for
physiological
conscious
improvement
experience
to
has
the part
improved.
of the brain that
We would have
informs
to
conscious
somehow become
experience,
more
ethics,
sentient.
morality. Okay.
We would have to somehow become more sentient via
You
this
do.
physiological outcome
You
for the
literally
means to
become more
improve.
sentient. Yes. Yes. Do you think that a
Prove that.
10-year-old is more? Sorry. Do you think a 20-year-old? Sorry. Okay. We can. Okay. You know what? Fuck it. We can. I'll find it. Hold on. Developmental differences in brain with depression, for example. So we'll go to the National Institute of Health. So they're investigating gray matter volumes in comparatively large samples of adolescents and young adults, 60 of them with a diagnosis of current depression. Results, replicating previous studies, we found a clear whole brain effect of age. The older the participants, the lower their global gray matter volumes. Well, hold on, let me get to a relevant part here. Okay, the lower their global gray matter volumes, particularly in the paracingulate and prefrontal cortices, contrasting depressed and healthy young youth in a whole brain approach, we found greater gray matter volumes in the prefrontal cortex of those with depression. Furthermore, a region of interest analysis indicated lower gray matter volumes in the hippocampus in participants with depression compared to those with healthy control. I can literally link this to you. The point being, we see physiological effects within the brain to those who are depressed. Obviously, I hope you know that you're less likely to be depressed or less likely to be mentally unwell off if you have a good surrounding social network, good surrounding community. These are things that directly impact the physiology of your brain in centers that enforce things like ethics, like empathy, like morality, like emotions, emotional regulation. These literally have a direct causal link. So we can link these. So by what definition does this not satisfy what you value, what you care about?
What I care about is just having the capacity to. If we increase the capacity to, that's cool. That's awesome. That's cool. I don't care. I
Should we
still
increase
value
the
a
capacity?
2-year-old as much as I value a 35-year-old because they meet the capacity. You can't sit here and say improving the capacity is going to do anything. The reason I dislike the inhibition of capacity is because when you're impeding on a moral principle I value, it's obviously a negative act. But the maximizing of this moral principle is just kind of like a non-point to me. I don't really care.
Here's a question. Do you think that I'm harming you if I know that A, you're in poverty? Because let's be honest, our country right now, our world right now, we're in a mental health poverty, a mental health crisis. We could use all the help we can get. So if I know that you're in financial poverty and I know that you won a lottery ticket and I rip up that lottery ticket, I prevent you from winning that money that would greatly improve your material conditions in the future. Am I A, harming you? And B, do you see how this is analogous to in the greatest era in recent history of mental health, depression, depravity, etc.? How is depraving us of the social connections with animals that we could otherwise help ourselves with? How is depriving us of that experience just so we can kill them and eat them for just mostly the trivial means of it tastes good? How is that not a bad thing? How is that not something you ought avoid?
Yeah, I think we ought to avoid doing it for that trivial reason because I've expressed that the trivial reason is retarded.
Okay, if that's how you feel.
That's 100% how I feel. Now, can we look at your worldview?
Okay. We have been looking at my worldview. I've been comparing it against yours the entire time.
Yeah, but we've been exploring my worldview. You've been talking about how to maximize and increase capacity. I haven't been able to ask you questions or provide analogies to your worldview at all. You just started fucking going on tangents about mine. Let's look at yours. I believe mine has perfectly explained these questions. I don't believe there's a single inconsistency with my worldview. You could sit there and say you don't think it's justified. I told you I could give you motivators. You sat there, you LARPed on, you fucking talked about nonsense babble, you played with your belly, you jerked off. I don't care what you did, right?
Do you?
But
Why are you this upset over losing? I don't understand.
I'm not upset at all. That's a big claim. Go ahead and prove that.
I mean, you sound very upset. You're rambling about nonsense.
Okay, and what is sounding upset? Go ahead.
Is this truly how you'd be acting if you were confident you were winning? Like, be honest.
Yeah, 100%. This is how I'd be acting if I was confident
I
that
don't
I was
think you
winning
believe
because I'm
that.
confident
I
that
don't
I'm
think
winning.
you believe that. I think if you were truly confident, you would just get to the point. So go ahead. What's your point? What do you want to question? What do you want to criticize?
So you just want to drop that? You want to drop the fact that I was sounding angry?
Look, I think everybody understands you sound upset. I'm not trying to hold it against you. I'm just trying to get us back on track.
You think everybody understands?
I'm not judging you for it. I'm literally not even judging you for it.
Do you want to
I'm just
drop
telling
it?
you to take a chill pill.
Do you want to drop it?
Do you want to get to the point? Look, bro, it is corny. Look, what's your
I
criticism?
would
Bro?
love to get to the point. Do you want to drop this fucking nonsense claim
I'm
you
just
made
asking you
for
to
us?
stop rambling about jerking off and weird little shit that you're saying. It's just weird little things you're talking about. Like, I don't think anybody's interested in that. What's your point? What's your criticism?
Yeah, you can think all you want, but it's already shown that when you think, it tends to lead to retarded outcomes. Like, that's
Okay,
terrible.
buddy. Look,
So
it's just
you
not
value
impressive. What's
you
your point?
value you value some account of harm, right? Harm is a negative principle in your moral worldview, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your necessary? Do you have a necessary principle in your moral worldview?
Could
Something
you
that is
define what you mean
necessary
by
for a
that?
being
Just
to
from
be considered?
that's necessary. I mean, I just think it has value if it has a conscious experience that'll be worth
So
preserving.
that's
Yeah,
your necessary principle?
it's not my if by necessary. I just want to just make sure we're super on the same page. When I say necessary principle, I don't mean that principle can't be overridden, but at a baseline, it's necessary.
Yeah, necessary is in like when this principle is obviously, within something, it 100% provides it moral value. I don't care if you think there's some biconditional that just reduces that moral value
Okay.
down.
Yeah, I think generally we should try not to harm that which can be harmed, can experience, etc.
So, and then I asked you the question about these animals, right? And they experience harm. I want to go back to that thought experiment. So, how do you weigh physical harm from whatever you define the other harm as?
Well, I think the
How
other
do you weigh
harm, I
that
guess we would
morally?
say harm of awareness. So obviously physical harm, I would say is morally still significant, but morally less, I'm less interested in it. It's less valuable. I would say I weigh awareness of harm more because obviously it shows a more complex thought process. And I would think the more complex of a thought process, the greater there is a capacity for suffering or understanding of suffering. To understand that you're suffering is in of itself a form of suffering.
All right. So let's say there's a 20-year-old, right? Who's like 10 times more like aware of the harm occurring than three 2-year-olds. Okay. And these three 2-year-olds are getting like grotesquely tortured, and this 20-year-old's getting like just like semi tortured or whatever.
Whoever
How do
has
you weigh?
experienced more. So
Yeah. How do
who's
you weigh what's
experiencing
going
more
on
net suffering? Who's experiencing more net suffering?
in your definition? The
Yeah, and
babies
like
are
based upon the
experiencing far more
hypothetical,
physical
I would assume that's what you're
suffering.
testing, right?
The babies are experiencing far more physical suffering, but they're 10 times
Yeah,
less aware of it than this guy.
I'm going to save the 20-year-old. I think he's suffering more. I think it's a horrible decision. I think it's fucking evil on both accounts, but I got to save the 20-year-old. I think that's a fairly reasonable view. I'm preventing the most amount of suffering I can.
All right, so then we'll just scale that up. We'll say
I'm
there's
just going to
three. There's
answer.
now.
We can skip this. I'm going to say yes to every single one in favor of whoever's suffering more.
So even if it's 1 million babies and then the ample amount of 20-year-olds to be compared to that, even though it'd be a crazy small number compared to the 1 million babies.
Yeah, I value suffering, not numbers.
Yeah, so
Like
that's
I
that's
mean
fine.
presumably
Like that's
look
fine. It's just going to be a reductio. If you're cool with 1 million babies just getting fucking massacred and just fucking straight
if
up
it were
violated or
provable
whatever the fuck
if
is
it were
occurring.
provable that the guy was suffering more, I don't know what do you want me to rescue there other than the person suffering the most? If I do have the option, why are you saving even a million, like in regards of that? Like what are you valuing there that
That's just
overrides the
shifting
baby?
the burden, but
Well, you're saying it's absurd. What's absurd about it? I'm just asking you what's absurd about it. What about the
yeah, it goes
babies
against
is
the
what you value
tendencies of
over the
rational
suffering?
agents.
Okay, I'm asking for a more specific answer. I think you gave a very cowardly answer. You said it's absurd. What specifically,
That's
other
just
than
like one of the
suffering and
definitions
capacity for
of
suffering,
absurdity
are you
within ethical
valuing? What
debates.
specifically is making you lead towards those babies? What specifically? Just because there's a
The
million of
tendency of
them?
me being a rational agent, knowing my tendency, and then the tendencies of rational agents who can promptly
So
respond
you're
to
going to
moral
beg the
claims.
question. You're going to beg the question. You're going to presuppose
It's
that it's a
constitutively
rational. You're going to
circular.
presuppose that
It's
it's a rational
constitutively
tendency,
circular.
and then
It's
you're going to use that as
constitutively
a
circular.
justification without having to do any of the
Hey,
hard work of actually
hey,
pointing
Forks.
out what you're
Hey,
valuing in
Forks.
the
It's
babies.
constitutively circular. You stupid
I'm
ass
just
bitch.
curious. Why can't you identify what about the babies in particular you're valuing, you're gravitating towards? Why do you have to take the lazy, cowardly answer? What about it?
Well, it's obvious. It's obvious what I value, right? There's more fucking capacity for
No, it's not
rational
obvious.
creativity getting inhibited. All these people meet the capacity, so obviously I would take it to save the fucking babies as opposed to these 5 20-year-olds
The
and these a
rational
million babies.
creativity, but I thought you said that rational creativity, the examples that we went over were in regards to more complex topics of conversations of why is rape wrong, what is morality, what are the morally correct positions. In what world, in what universe are a million of any babies with low level sentience going to have any comparative rational creativity to somebody who you describe has more sentience than the combination of all of those babies? In what world is that
They
true?
don't have more comparatively. They just have more capacity. Like they have more brains than these amount of
Comparatively, okay, then
20-year-olds.
what's being compared if not for the capacity? Just the sheer number?
What do you mean?
Because even
What
additively,
does this
that's not
question
going to
mean?
compare. Even additively, I'm not sure how that compares. What? Okay, what is being compared? You said comparatively. Correct me if
Yeah,
maybe I'm
I told you
misquoting
I
you. You said
value meeting the
comparatively, it's true.
capacity. They obviously meet the capacity because they can have a conscious experience, which
But
means
the
they have
point
the
isn't that they
capacity
meet the
to be rational.
capacity; they're exceeded in the capacity. You agree? You literally agree with that.
I
So
literally told
what are you
you, I've
comparing?
told you 5 times now, I don't care about maximizing the capacity. I just care that we don't inhibit it
We're
because
not
that
even
literally
talking
strips
about
away my value
maximizing the
principle.
capacity. We're not even talking about maximizing it. We're talking about what's
Yes, but I don't
presently
care if something has more
We're talking about
capacity.
the present. No,
I
your
care about
hypothetical
the
has
amount
nothing to
of
stop running.
capacities.
Stop running. Stop running.
I'm not running. I just
The
gave you an
amount of
ample answer.
capacity. So if you agree that the additive capacity of all of those children does not even come close to matching the total capacity present of that 20-year-old, then how is the amount of capacity in the favor of the babies? By what metric? This is unintuitive as fuck.
All I'm defining as capacity is the means to have these rational creative thoughts.
Yeah, and okay. You're just repeating yourself ad nauseum. I think everybody understands the point that even additively speaking, those babies do not approach the rational capacity via the rules of your own hypothetical of the person I'm
It's the
choosing to say.
capacity for
Be
rational.
it by my
When you
worldview or
use
your
these words
worldview,
in
we
different
save that
orders, they
20-year-old.
mean
They have
completely
greater
different
rational
things, folks.
capacity. No,
It
I'm going
means
by
2
your
completely
definition.
different things.
Okay. Well, if I'm not going by your definition, it's only because you have not made it clear enough. Mostly because you're just giving lazy, cowardly answers. You're not specifying what about the babies.
So regardless of this being having like more sentience or more whatever the fuck dog shit, right?
More rational capacity.
It doesn't have more rational capacity.
Really? Okay, so
sorry,
you said that
capacity for rational human creativity.
Capacity for rational creativity. So again, you contributed that to the ability to talk about things that are deeply complex, like morality, something beyond the grasp of a baby. How does a baby, which does not have the capacity to engage in these topics that you attribute to creative rationality,
it has the
how does it
capacity. Its
exceed the
capacity
value?
is just being inhibited by development. That's why I think we
So
ought
then
to
there's
help
more
these babies
capacity.
develop.
So then you don't even value that there's more capacity. You just, it's not even clear what you value. You're just saying that
I
there's
do.
an infinitesimal amount of capacity in each individual
20-year-old
baby.
has obviously has more capacity than this 2-year-old.
By levels of magnitude, because to be clear, in the hypothetical, it's more than the entirety additively of 1,000,000 2-year-olds, apparently, in this retarded hypothetical.
The hypothetical
Just
says
so you
nothing
can
about
justify
rational
needlessly killing
creativity or its
animals.
capacity. The hypothetical says nothing about rational creativity and its capacity for it. The hypothetical talks about this baby's experience and ability to having to feel harm or whatever the fuck you value. It's not
The
talking
ability
about
to feel
rational
harm in the
capacity.
present moment. In the
Do you
present
want to
moment,
stipulate
right?
that?
In the present
Stipulate.
moment, right? Are you saying in the present moment?
Stipulate it. If you want to provide an analogy of your own, stipulate it. But
I'm
I'm
asking you
talking about.
clarify. I'm asking you a clarifying question. Do you mean that the capacity in the present moment, right? Just so we're on the same page.
Just the capacity in general. I value a coma patient because it still has the capacity for it. It's just getting inhibited by a comatose.
Okay, so the capacity, so that also references what it can do in the future, or only in the present?
The capacity just it just means the means to do something, brother.
The means to do something in the moment or in the future. Why are you refusing to clarify very basic questions?
If it has a brain, it has the means to do it. If its brain is getting fucking like inhibited, then okay.
So then it has a brain, but you understand that that brain in the moment only has a means to do so much, and that comparatively speaking, the 20-year-old's brain has a means to do so much more.
So obviously, I don't care what it has in the moment, right? All I care about is
you don't.
Yes. If it meets that, if it meets the threshold for capacity, I care about it. Whether it's within momentary capacity, or like future capacity, or past capacity, as long as it meets the threshold for capacity.
I believe. Okay, future capacity. Okay, so do you think that these babies in this hypothetical in the future, are you positing that they will exceed the capacity of the 20-year-old?
No, I think they currently do. By capacity, it's just like their brains. They have more brain.
Okay, here's a question. Because in my mind, this is my understanding of the analogy. We're comparing 2 rockets. You think that cumulatively the engine of 100 cars, because there are 100 more engines than, let's say, one engine that could take us to the moon, that those 100 engines outweigh the one that could take us to the moon. I don't understand by any means what that's true. How is that true?
So I don't care if this, like, here's your rocket analogy. If this rocket had fucking 1,000 horsepower more than like whatever fucking other rocket, right? But there was like 2 rockets, I'd value the 2 rockets because it reaches the capacity for it. I don't care if one has some higher capacity. I don't care if some super sentient being or super rationally creative being came down. I wouldn't value him any more than I value fucking Bridge.
Okay,
right?
That's interesting. So let's say that there was a scientist who had the cure for cancer, and this scientist's cure for cancer would obviously not only save, obviously we're talking about it saving millions to billions of lives over time. There's only one scientist, and his life is at threat. His life is at threat of ending, and you could prevent it, but 2 newborn babies have to be killed in the process. What are you doing? And I'm talking his cure, to be clear, will save people in the future, not people who currently exist yet. Just to make it more interesting, who are you saving?
Are you? And then what's the stipulation? 2 babies die?
Yeah, either 2 babies die, or that scientist with a cure for cancer that will save billions in the future, he dies. Who are you saving?
I'm not a consequentialist, so I don't think that 2 babies should die. The scientist should die.
Okay, that's fine. So wait. Who are you? I'm not saying who you think should die. Obviously, neither of them should die, and I'm saying that neither the babies nor the 20-year-old should die. That's not what I'm asking you, because that's not what you asked me. Who are you choosing to save?
But I still answered your question. I literally gave you a direct answer.
So you can't make a decision, to be clear, based on your moral framework. You cannot make a decision.
I just told you I made a decision.
No, your decision was, I don't think either of them should die, which is a pussy cowardly answer.
Did you not hear me? I think neither of them should die. Forks. Yeah, I said neither should die, but I'm not a consequentialist, so I think the scientist obviously has less moral consideration.
That's what I said. Your moral framework.
Yeah, so the scientist should die.
Literally cannot make a decision.
Literally via my moral framework, the scientist should die.
So instead of answering, you tried to bury your answer in implication. Why are you acting like this? That's actually so pussyfooted. Okay,
I didn't. I literally told you who had less moral consideration. It's obviously implicit of who should die. I didn't bury it in implication. You're just too retarded to understand.
Just be a fucking man. Just be a fucking man and just say something straightforwardly. When I ask you a straightforward question, I gave you straightforward responses.
Straightforwardly?
Yes, that's a word. I gave you straightforward responses to your questions. I'm just expecting the bare minimum of that to me, okay? So that's fine. Your moral framework could be incapable of making
I gave you a straightforward answer. I told you who's less considerable. That literally tells you who I would
That's just going to be a similar reductio ad absurdum. That's just going to be a similar reductio ad absurdum then, that you would sacrifice the doctor over the billions of lives that he could save if you preserve them.
It's not.
To be clear, you're willing to throw away the lives of a doctor and the billions who he will save in favor of 2 newborn infants.
Which reason the absurdity?
That's consistent with your view, but it just makes your view consistently absurd.
Go ahead.
I told you, okay, the absurdity is that, again, you're exchanging under your worldview, under your morality, billions of lives and the life of somebody with far more consciousness than the infants in exchange for those infants. You're making that sacrifice. That's an absurd claim.
You just said my preferences lead to it being an absurdity because he's violating my value.
Most people think it's retarded. You literally were calling my views absurd off the same framework, off the same value. Because I didn't contradict myself. You just said that it was absurd.
These guys just aren't rational.
So this is the game we're going to play.
It's not a reductio because
I know you're going to presuppose that your side is rational, even though you conceded you couldn't prove that earlier. I know you're going to make that presupposition. I'm just saying your view is similarly, if not more so, absurd than mine.
I can prove it. I've offered a motivator as to why my value principle is the correct one multiple times. You've just refused.
Well, to be clear, you conceded multiple times that you made some sort of either unfalsifiable statistical claim, right, which you couldn't demonstrate, or that you made a statistical claim that you outright admitted. You just had no clue if it were true or not. Multiple times. You said that most people would not
so my claim is that rational agents, aka agents that can respond to moral phenomena aptly, would view that your shit is wrong. The reason
I know that was the claim. That was a statistical claim you could never justify. You conceded on that like 30 minutes ago.
All I have to prove is that apt rationality leads to the conclusion that you probably shouldn't fucking torture 18 million babies.
No, your argument from that, by the way, your argument for that when you made that claim earlier was that, well, I talked to a couple of vegans and I didn't find them philosophically literate, as if there aren't millions of vegans, and you conceded that would probably not be a adequate sample size. So again, you didn't even demonstrate, and this would be another example of it, even if you thought, which I don't think you have, by the way, but even if you thought that you won this conversation, again, that would not satisfyingly be a sample size with which you can say the totality of vegans are philosophically illiterate or just morally incorrect. We'd never justify that claim. It's another hasty generalization.
So here's the problem, Forks. They don't respond to moral phenomena aptly because their moral principle is incorrect because I have the correct moral principle. That's the syllogism, boy.
Yeah, but again, your justification for that is a hasty generalization where you talk to a few people compared to the millions of vegans and you assume that the millions of vegans are incorrect.
No, if I could just prove that, prove that my moral principle is true and we ought to follow it, then it is the case that the negation of these moral principles is not rational. Yeah,
How did you prove that?
I've offered motivators multiple times, but I'm going to go ahead and present my motivator now, hopefully uninterrupted.
Okay, go ahead.
So premise 1, the brain is a goal-setting mechanism, correct, Uncle?
I didn't ask you to repeat your argument. I said, why do you think you proved your claim within the context
When have
of
I
this
ever
debate?
said that? I didn't repeat shit. Can you track?
Well, you're talking about premise. Like, I'm not interested in what premise 1 of any argument is right now. I'm just asking you, why do you think that you proved in this conversation or any that your position is the correct one?
I told you that I've tried to provide motivators and
it.
you denied them, and I'm now trying to fucking give you a motivator. And I have to call you a slur because Cool Guy told me to. You're a dirty fucking
You're gonna
camel
call me a
jockey.
slur? Okay, you sound like a fucking pussy. Look, if you're gonna say
Prove
that you
that.
proved it, I'm asking
How
you,
is that conducive
did
to me
you
sounding
prove
like
it?
a pussy?
Did you prove it? Did you prove it either A, dialectically, which is obviously not going to prove that your position is sound, or did you actually prove that it is sound objectively, like in regards to the actual truth of the matter? If you think you did that, then how? Justify that.
I'm telling you right now that I've offered to prove it multiple times, and you haven't wanted me to. Can you track?
So what argument did you offer that I said you couldn't do? What argument did I prevent
I
you from
said I
making?
could provide motivators to why my position is the case multiple times, and you go.
So wait, no, don't be a pussy. Don't be a pussy. How did I prevent you from giving those motivators? What did I say that prevented you from doing that?
I'm just offering them now. Go ahead. Like, can I give them?
Go ahead. You're the one trying to offer them. You're telling me to go ahead. What are we talking about?
Like, go ahead and shut your fucking mouth, you stupid ass bitch.
Tell me. I'm not. Again, all I said was I don't want premises or argue. I'm not asking you for an argument for any particular claim. I'm just asking you, why do you think personally? You can even give a personal argument, for example. Why do you think that you proved your position?
I'd rather just give a logical argument because it's better, stupid bitch. So my logical argument is that the premise 1, the brain is a goal-setting mechanism. Do we agree? Do we disagree?
Sure.
Premise 2, we ought follow rational goals instead of irrational goals. Do you agree?
Not necessarily. I don't.
So you think we should just go around raping monkeys?
Do you think that all irrational goals are about rape?
I think that most irrational goals, via my definition of irrational, means that they don't respond aptly to morality. Regardless if you agree. Go ahead.
Refresh us about what irrationality is and why it would prevent us from acting morally.
Yeah, I define rational as the ability to respond aptly to moral phenomena.
The ability to respond. Okay, so that's gonna again.
So should we follow rational goals?
I guess you could look if you want to define it that way, which is fine, and you want to say that we should be rational. That's also fine, but we're not going to allow you to presuppose that your moral values are the correct one, or like I didn't reduce them to absurdity 5 minutes ago. So that's where we're going to disagree.
That's kind of what we're talking over, you idiot. I'm glad we agree with the second premise.
So all you need to say is how did you prove that your specific moral values are the correct one?
I'm in the middle of it right now. Hey Forks, I'm in the middle of it right now.
You can cut to cut to the relevant part.
Premise 3, human creativity or rational creativity is conducive with these rational goals, i.e. invention, love, care.
Okay. So are you going to explain the relevant
rational
part?
Creativity is valuable. Thanks.
So you said you were going to justify why you explained, why you proved that your moral framework is the correct one, and then you ended without doing that.
I just explained to you now why rational agents value human creativity and why that it wouldn't be via your definition of reductio ad absurdum. Right, which came from my definition because obviously you don't know the definition.
You didn't justify why your conception of rational creativity is the one that we should morally value in all cases, especially when apparently
you literally
it
agreed
allows
to
us
the
to kill a
syllogism.
scientist
Do you want to backtrack?
The cure to cancer, and we should just let that person and the billions of lives he could potentially save go because of 2 infants.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it ends here, Forks.
Your position is absurd.
And the reason I think it ends here, just tell me if I'm tripping, Forks. The reason I think it ends here is because we just went over my syllogism. You agreed to it. So what I entail from
I didn't agree to your syllogism. I agreed to aspects of it. I didn't agree to the underlying facts of the matter of it, which is, for example, as we're discussing right now, why it is the case that should be the metric by which we determine morality, or why we should prioritize that as the metric by which we determine morality.
It's if P then Q, you stupid bitch. You agreed to P's.
Yeah, it's an absurd Q, apparently. It's an absurd conclusion. So I don't want to go in circles. I don't want to go ad nauseum. Do you have anything else to offer?
Yeah, I could just present to you why I don't think my view's circular. You could present, or absurd, sorry. You could present, I said sorry, dumbass bitch. You could present to me why you think it is absurd.
You're getting upset over me saying nothing, by the way.
I'm not upset at all. You failed to prove that like 3 times,
Dumb
but you can keep
bitch. So
making
you
that
saying
stupid
dumb
claim.
bitch when I didn't say anything? Isn't you upset?
Oh my
You're not
God,
upset right
bro.
now.
No, I could call you a
continue,
bitch and not
bro.
be upset. Hey, Bridge, you're a bitch. I'm
Okay.
not mad at Bridge.
God,
I
you
just
sound
called
like
him a
such a
bitch right
pussy.
now.
Is this how you talk to people in real life?
You just
I'm not
That's
continue.
how I talk to fat retards.
I'm not even fat. You know I'm not fat. What are we talking about?
Oh wait,
How
okay.
much do you think I weigh?
Honestly, Forks, the last image I saw of you, you were like morbidly obese, but it was like 4 years
Do you
ago.
want to
So
see me with abs then?
yeah, sure. I mean, I'd be really happy if you went on a weight loss
Oh,
journey.
you said yeah, sure.
Okay, be
So
happy for me then. But just don't be upset. Just don't act like a child. Just be.
I'm not
be
upset.
chill.
It's just not
Be chill.
conducive to me being upset.
It's just
So
not okay,
anyways,
brother.
I don't think it was an absurdity, right? Let's just get this over with, Forks. We both
Let's get it
exhausted
over
at
with.
this shit. So I
I'm
don't
not
think it was an
exhausted.
absurdity because I believe I justified within my syllogism, which you agreed. You agreed to pee. You agreed to pee. Agreed to pee. Modus Poland, stupid bitch. So it's not an absurdity because rational agents should or ought to follow human creativity. It's valuable. My syllogism proves that. You tried to reduce me by saying that it goes against the tendencies of rational agents, which is, yes, a definition of absurdity, but I believe my syllogism proves that rational agents would come to the same conclusion as me. I explained as to why your fucking absurdity that I reduced you to just doesn't. I don't think you really even disagreed with the absurdity. You just sat there, bit the bullet. You remained consistent. Congratulations. I'm happy you remain consistent with your moral endeavors, but it's just you got reduced to an absurdity. I didn't. Yeah, there was some like definitely some interesting substance here in regards to like fucking inductive vegan world domination or whatever the fuck you were saying. But I think I
Domination.
provided like equal defeaters for that. I'm concluding right now. So do you want to conclude after this, or do you want to address something before
Oh,
I
I
finish
figured you were.
concluding?
No, there's a recording, but I think everybody who wanted to pay attention was, so I'm chill.
Okay, you don't want to conclude, or
Yeah, I'm fine just ending it after you conclude. That's fine.
I don't want to conclude if you don't want to conclude. That's fine. We can just end it here.
Oh, cool. Yo, good debate,
All right,
man.
Forks. It was good talking to you, man.
So we need to see the abs, man. You said you're gonna send it. You gotta send it through.
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll send it.
You're
Don't worry,
gay
don't
as
worry.
fuck. You both are
Okay,
gay as
guys,
shit,
the
boy.
debate has been wrapped up. Thank you so much for watching,
All
guys.
right,
Please
I
drop
think
a like and a follow if you would. Shut the fuck up,
Please
retard.
shut the
Please,
fuck up.
please drop a like and a follow.
Bro, cool guy. No one is talking about